Another schedule health metric is your baseline execution index. And this is just like your SPI, except it's not with your cost, but you're just counting how many tasks were you planning to get done versus how many did you actually get done. So it's calculated the same way. You just don't count your cost, you count how many tasks. So you're going to be looking at your baseline finish and calculating how many tasks are on or before your status date in that column. Then you're going to look at your actual finish and look at how many of those tasks have an actual finish on or before your status date. Then you calculate them, divide them up, and you see what you get. This is just saying how you're performing against your baseline. So your baseline execution index, or BEI, is just another form of earned value. It's measuring your schedule performance in parallel to your baseline plan. So it's baseline performance management. Now, why is this important? Because knowing your performance history is a good indicator if you will finish on time. You can learn lessons to improve upon for the next project. Fields used are your baseline finish and your actual finish, because you're looking at your performance against your baseline. What did you have planned versus what did you actually get done? It's calculated similarly to your CPI and SPI, but instead of looking at dollars and hours, you're just looking at the count of your task. It's very simple. You're going to count how many tasks have an actual finish that is less than or equal to your status date. And your status date is either today or a date in the near past. Then you're going to divide that count by the count of tasks that have a baseline finish that is less than or equal to your status date. That is the same status date you used for your actual finish. You will either get a number that is 1 or above or below 1. Your goal is similar to your goals with CPI and SPI. You want to be greater than 0.95. And as you get further away from 1, your performance looks worse and worse. So an example of the BEI is, again, counting how many tasks have a baseline finish that is on or before the status date. So we chose a status date of 9/5, and we have 15 tasks that fall into that category. We had 15 tasks that were planned to finish on or before 9/5. Then we calculate how many tasks actually did get done on or before 9/5. So to use that, we use the actual finish column, and we're going to count that we have 9 tasks. We take that 9 divided by 15, and we get a 0.6. We're not doing very well. So here's where we're going to go over to project. So here's where we're looking in project, and we're looking at your finish, your actual finish, and your baseline finish. And this is where it's important that we are accurately updating our dates before we mark something as complete. Because right when you mark something as complete, so I say, yeah, we installed the water lines into the walls, and I say it's 100%. When I mark it as 100%, it takes the date that's in my finish and saying that's when we got it done. So it's just taking what you did. Even if I marked it today, it's not going to say that it was done today. So that's how project works. It takes the finish date and puts it as your actual finish. It's up to you to say, okay, well, when did it actually finish so that I can get it accurate? And that's why schedulers will always ask, well, when did you really get it done? Because you want to make sure that you update the information. So if they didn't get it done on 11/30, say they got it done sooner, then you would reduce the duration to get it there. So this metric is looking at your actual finish and your baseline finish. So that's why your actual finish is important to be accurate. And you want to count how many of these tasks are actual finishes that were before the status date. So we're going to do a custom one, and it says is less than or equal to, and the 9/5. And this, you could do a manual count to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's your 9. Then you would unfilter that. So select all. Then you go to your baseline. Do the same type of filter, a custom one that says is less than or equal to 9/5. And there you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then you would divide the 9 divided by the 15, and there you go. Now, I don't like to count by hand, so I do it an easier way where I will just take this information and make sure that your actual finish and your baseline finish is in there, and also include your summary, and copy and paste it, and let's paste it into Excel. So when I paste it into Excel, this is what it looks like. So I made sure I had the summary field shown and put it in here so I can filter on all the yeses and erase the data for that, because we don't count this against your summary task. It's only about the detail task. So I would clear that information before I progress any further. So that's why you see some blanks. Now we're gonna go and calculate that formula. So here is where I put in the 9.5 to say that's the status state. And then I'm gonna do some count if formulas. So I'm gonna count if how many of baseline finish are on or before that 9.5. And that's where I get the 15. Then I'm gonna count how many have an actual finish on or before 9.5. And that's where I get the 9. So then I divide the 9 by the 15, and that's where I get the 0.6. So that's an easier calculation if you don't want to do it by hand in project. Then you can change this easy too to say, what is the status state? Is it now 11/2/23? And you can see how it changes to say, okay, that's the status state. This is how much we had planned to get done. Here's how much we actually did get done. How much we got planned, you saw increased because there is more time between 9.5 and 11.2, but I haven't updated the schedule, so the actual finish didn't change, so that's why the 9 is still there, because I did not update the schedule. But this just lets you change the time frame. So a recap on the BEI metric is it's just another form of earned value. Very similar to your CPI and SPI, instead of counting your cost in hours, it's looking at the count of tasks. What did you have planned versus what did you actually get done? This is important because performance history is a good indicator if you will finish on time. The fields used are your baseline finish and your actual finish, and you're just going to count how many tasks had an actual finish on or before today's date, and then divide that by the count of the actual task that you had planned, which is in your baseline finish, that had a date that was on or before the status date. Your goal is to stay above 0.95. If you go below that, your performance is looking worse and worse.